It begins with Elliot in his daily routine. He talks to dead bodies and promises to make them look alive. He also takes pictures of them. But the real story is about Anna. We meet her moments later in an awkward situation with her boyfriend Paul. While they are having sex, she doesn't seem to enjoy it, and this leads to conflict between them. Then Paul approaches while Anna is taking a shower and tries to fix everything. She says she's happy, but her face shows she's not. He says goodbye through the glass, telling her he loves her. Then Anna goes to the school where she works. She walks into a classroom just as two older kids are bullying her young student Jack. So she stands up for him. He thanks her and points to one of the chicks in the class, saying it's dead. But Anna picks it up, sees it's alive, and tells him the little animal is just scared. Later, Anna leaves the school and the lights in the hallway start to go out one by one as she walks. She's scared and tries to leave, but the door is locked. Suddenly, Jack appears out of nowhere, turns on the lights, and asks if she was scared. He opens the door without any trouble. Anna says goodbye to her student because she has to go to her old piano teacher's funeral. In the car, she realizes her bottle of pills is empty, so she goes to the pharmacy. On her way out, she sees a hairdresser's shop and decides to get a new look. At the funeral, we see the widow surprised that Elliot used her husband's favorite flowers, which he says he chose for the occasion. Anna thinks she sees the corpse move its mouth, but it must have been her imagination. Later, Elliot sees her crying and looking desperate, but we don't know why. That night, Paul waits for Anna at a nice restaurant. The evening gets awkward when Paul says her new look isn't really her style. But the big news is that Paul tells her he has to move to Chicago for work. When he's about to propose, Anna starts arguing, thinking he's going to break up with her. Even though he tries to stop her, she runs off and drives away in the rain. Suddenly, a white van drives very close to her. Anna doesn't seem to pay much attention to this. She continues driving and picks up her cell phone. But as she starts dialing a number, a car overtakes her in the background, and everything goes black. Later, we see Anna in a mortuary with a pale face and a wound on her forehead. Elliot takes her belongings. When he's about to undress her, she opens her eyes and asks where she is. With surprising calmness, Elliot tells her she's in the morgue because she's dead. We learn that Anna collided with a truck loaded with metal pipes, causing her death 8 hours ago. He explains her body doesn't circulate blood anymore and is in the process of decomposition. Anna seems to not understand, and to convince her, Elliot shows her a death certificate. But Anna's insistence doesn't work. She can't move but can talk and keeps insisting it's a mistake. Elliot gets upset and leaves. Meanwhile, Paul wakes up at her house and starts calling her to sort things out. But Elliot has her belongings. Seeing the missed calls, Elliot puts her cell phone in a paper bag and places it in a closet with others like it. Paul decides to visit his mother-in-law's house with flowers, where he learns about Anna's accident. Her mother blames him for everything. Meanwhile, Elliot talks to a photo of a corpse as if it were alive. He meets Anna and stitches her wounds despite her plea not to hurt her. He injects her with something to soothe her muscles. Anna's mother asks Elliot to return Anna's hair to its natural brown color. Anna is left alone, regaining some strength. She tries to feel her pulse and hits her body, but feels no pain. She tries to call with an old phone, but it doesn't work. Paul arrives at the mortuary, but Elliot doesn't let him see the corpse as he has no legal ties to her. Anna screams, but Paul doesn't hear her. In desperation, Paul goes to the police station to find his friend Tom. He sees Anna's car and decides to get in, but he starts having visions of her until Tom's hand makes him react. Anna goes into the room where Elliot is and grabs a pair of scissors. She hides them behind her back and waits for Elliot, attempting to attack him to escape. But she fails because the doors are closed. Despite threatening to kill him, she can't do it. Elliot then confesses to her that he has a gift allowing him to talk to the dead. Later, Anna wakes up and sees an old woman in front of her who looks directly at her. With a chilling voice, the woman says it's actually a vision, causing Anna to panic and destroy the room. Elliot, unaware of this, is at the old woman's funeral, having a warm conversation with Jack. The next day, Paul starts hearing whispers of Anna in his house and imagines seeing her, but it's all a dream. Meanwhile, Elliot returns with Anna and hangs a dress and his own jacket on a rack. He shows Anna the dress, saying it's for her funeral. While he's occupied, she subtly takes the keys from his pocket. Elliot leaves in his white van and goes to the gas station while Anna tries to open the door with the stolen keys. Though she struggles, she manages to escape the room. However, when Elliot goes to pay at the gas station, he realizes he forgot his keys and hurries back. We see Anna walking through the house to the front door, and when she opens it, she sees that Elliot has returned. She runs out, finds a phone, and calls Paul for help. The call has interference, and Elliot grabs her. He shows her a mirror, and seeing his corpse-like appearance, she convinces herself she is dead. But two important things happen that she didn't notice. First, Jack is standing in front of the house watching her through the window, and Elliot notices this by chance. Second, Anna sighs in front of the mirror, fogging it up, something a dead person probably can't do. Elliot quickly wipes it with a handkerchief without her noticing. Convinced of her death, Anna stops resisting Elliot's preparation of her body and doesn't give any importance to what he injects her with. Another day passes and Paul is at school picking up his girlfriend's things. Jack greets him and tells him he saw his teacher wearing a red dress at the mortuary the night before. Paul becomes exalted and asks him to stop joking. The boy insists, suggesting maybe Paul doesn't love her enough, which angers Paul, leading to him hitting the boy in front of everyone. Meanwhile, a policeman arrives at the mortuary to see his brother's body, next to Anna's, and asks to be alone with him. He seems like a psychopath because he approaches Anna's naked body with intentions of touching her, but is surprised by Elliot before doing so. Elliot finds Jack talking to a corpse in the morgue and asks if he saw Anna the night before. The boy nods, and Elliot tells him they both share the same gift as Jesus Christ and promises to teach him everything. Meanwhile, Paul remembers that the last morning together, Anna had a red dress just as Jack had told him. He begins to suspect his girlfriend is alive, so he rushes to the mortuary and tells his theory to Elliot, demanding to see her. But Elliot refuses, and Paul breaks in. Elliot threatens to call the police, and Paul leaves. But he doesn't give up easily. He goes to his friend Tom and tells him they only took Anna's pulse before declaring her dead and that they could have drugged her. Tom doesn't believe him, but another policeman seems to and talks about a substance called hydronium bromide that can cause paralysis in seconds. Paul also mentions he thinks Anna called him, but they don't take him seriously. Tom convinces his friend that his theory doesn't make much sense. Later, Elliot continues preparing Anna for her funeral, and they have a deep conversation where she confesses she's never been happy. She explains her mother taught her that loving equaled suffering, so she vowed never to love until she met Paul. Now she regrets not telling him she was in love. Elliot opens the door and invites her to leave if she really wants to live. Anna goes back home and finds her mom, Paul, and some old ladies there. They do a prayer like an exorcism, and Anna spits out bugs while Roots hold her. Then she snaps back to reality, scared to leave. Elliot talks about fearing life more than death. Anna accepts her death. Elliot digs her grave, and Jack asks to be taught. Elliot says he buries them because they take space from the living. On the funeral day, Elliot injects Anna with something to relax her. Anna asks Elliot to see her face, but he dismisses her signs of life. He takes a photo, and the funeral starts with Anna's favorite flowers, surprising her mom. Then Elliot tells Anna he thought the flowers were appropriate for some reason. Paul arrives next to Tom and approaches Anna's body to place the engagement ring on her finger. Her lips and eyelids move slightly, making Elliot nervously decide to close the coffin. Leaving the funeral, Paul apologizes to Jack. The boy reminds him he didn't say he saw her alive, just that he saw her. Meanwhile, Elliot talks to a photo of Anna's corpse and adds it to a collection of hundreds of identical photos on the wall. During the burial, Anna wakes up inside the coffin and screams for help. At the reception, Paul accuses Elliot of burying her alive. Elliot suggests he check the cemetery, causing Paul's fury. Elliot stops him, saying time is running out. Jack buries the chick we initially thought was dead, but it was actually alive. Anna is running out of oxygen in the coffin while Paul drives fast in the rain. Suddenly, a bright light shines on him. When he opens his eyes, the road is clear, and an ambulance overtakes him. The ambulance continues down the road where Elliot's truck is parked with Jack. They talk about how it's all over. Paul arrives at the cemetery, digs up Anna's coffin, and carries her out. She catches her breath and says she loves him. Suddenly, Paul hears a sound, and Anna's voice tells him it's the sound of scissors cutting his clothes. Paul wakes up on a stretcher, unable to move. He's at the mortuary, and Elliot tells him he died in a car accident. He couldn't make it to the cemetery to see if Anna was alive. Jack helps as Elliot puts a huge metal spike into Paul's body, making him scream until he passes out. Although visually everything goes dark, we hear Paul say he's not dead. That was the afterlife. Don't forget to comment. What movie would you like me to recap? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.